Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, December the 13th, 2022. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning Five and Change, joined by the lovely and talented Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Yes, this is our normal gig, but again, Dave Biddle is off this week, so you'll get to see plenty of me. I'm sure that makes you really excited. But we do have the man in here today. He is at the top of his game. It is fast, it is furious these days as we prepare for the playoff, but also deal with the good old transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and regular recruiting as such. Steve, how goes it?
Good morning, Daniel. You guys, Buckeyes got a chance here to win the national championship, brother. It's going to be a tough one against Georgia, but there is a recipe to win that ball game. You got to protect C.J. Stroud, which is the toughest task in the country, but Ohio State is going to be running out NFL offensive linemen to combat what is the best defensive front in college football. Obviously, if you get time to throw, you can pick Georgia apart some. So, there's a recipe there, and eliminate the big plays, and that could be an exciting college football semifinal there. Plus, who's the last team to repeat?
That's a really good question. The last team to repeat, is it USC? I don't know the answer to that. That's what jumps into my brain, but that's a really good question. In terms of stopping the pass rush, yesterday All-Americans were announced, and Paris Johnson Jr. and DeJuan Jones both made the second team. So you'd think if you're going to have some guys who can hold up. Unfortunately, Jalen Carter moves towards the interior of the line. He is a beast, and that is going to be a tall task. But I do think you're right that Ohio State has the materials to get it done. I'm not sure there are many other teams in the country that would even really stand a chance given the month break for everyone to get healthy and prepared. So we will stay optimistic there. We will stay optimistic on all fronts despite the general negativity we feel in the front row. There were questions asked for the Fong here, and we're going to go through them today. And then if we have time, we'll try and hit some of the later questions you guys are posting as we speak. But we will start at the top. No to Big Cat or not, oh, Big Cat. Seems like Ohio State is playing defense in the recruiting world right now, Steve. What recruits out there not committed to Ohio State? Do we have at least a 50% chance or greater of signing in the current 2023 class? Of course, five-star defensive end Keon Keeley committed to Alabama yesterday, I believe. That was expected. There will be a new update on the top 247 coming here soon. And we will deal with that as well, but figure it in for us.
Well, I feel really good about where Ohio State stands with Indianapolis Lawrence Central, top 247 edge rusher Joshua Mickens, who I got a chance to see play some high school basketball on Friday. He was in my suburb here in the Indianapolis area playing a road game, and he played a lot of minutes. And I think it was an overtime loss to Zionsville. Zionsville has a guard that's going to Penn State. But Mickens was the man in the middle for Lawrence Central. Good feet, explosive, can jump, good side-to-side, aggressive player, can handle the basketball. Just a terrific athlete all the way around. And I think he's actually adding good muscle to his frame already. But I like where Ohio State stands for him. He's going to announce his college decision on January 7th at the All-America Bowl in San Antonio. And I think he's got a lot of traits to develop into a hell of a pass rusher for Ohio State if he does indeed choose the Buckeyes. Keon Keeley shouldn't surprise y'all. As soon as he decommitted from Notre Dame, the crystal ball went towards Alabama. Ohio State was playing catch up. There was a valiant effort, got him to campus twice. But Alabama was the crystal ball pick when he decommitted from Notre Dame, and that forecast never changed. There has been some back and forth with Damon Wilson, the 24/7 Sports Composite five-star edge from Florida, who's playing in his state championship game this weekend. I think that Georgia's gaining momentum fast with him. I liked Ohio State in the fall. I think Ohio State's still fighting the good fight, but I think that Georgia's, been picking up steam in that one. We'll see how it falls when the dust settles. Mateo Uagalele is obviously the 5-star defensive lineman from Bosco out there in California. I know Larry Johnson and Coach Perry Eliano were out there to watch him play over the weekend. Coach Eliano is recruiting Peyton Woodyard, who's going to commit on January 7th at the All-America Bowl as well. Ohio State and Georgia battling for Peyton Woodyard down the stretch there. I think Ohio State's well positioned for Mateo, but that doesn't mean that that couldn't change by the time he makes his decision. You got Oregon, who I view as their biggest challenger right now.
Really?
And then USC is in there, obviously. Maybe a Georgia or someone makes a move for Mateo here late. But, I think Ohio State's doing all the right things. The family loves Larry Johnson, loves the idea of Mateo being developed by Larry Johnson. I think player development is something that's very important here because DJ picked Clemson, and for them personally, it wasn't the experience I think that they thought that they were going to get when he committed in high school. So there's a lot of moving parts with recruiting right now, but player development is something that Ohio State can really lean on when they're recruiting kids really at every position, but certainly on the defensive line with Larry Johnson's track record. We'll see. I'm definitely not sleeping on Oregon there. And then, he's been to USC a bunch. They won 11 games this year. We'll see what happens. And then, Greg Biggins has reported a couple times on Georgia being in the mix. We've heard Texas A&M. So I don't know. I think you guys are recruiting running backs, right? So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. I know you guys offered the kid from Georgia there, from South Paulding, Jamarian Wilcox, who's an Ohio native.
I saw a crystal ball for Kentucky there.
Yeah, so Kentucky has been the one to beat for Wilcox for much of the cycle. They've done a good job. They've been way out in front on that one. So I don't know. Look, this is
what about the quarterback from the Dakotas?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. So Lincoln Kineholz, Ohio State's still pushing extremely hard to try and add him to the class as they try and add a quarterback to a room that could get really thin really fast. I don't think they're out for Lincoln Kineholz, but nobody has told me that they're like he's an Ohio State lean either. He's committed to Washington. Yeah. I can very well see him in the fold for Washington. And I know, look, this is the end of the cycle, and it doesn't seem like Ohio State is going to finish with the same flurry as maybe a couple other programs that might land 5-6 guys here down the stretch. But you all got to remember that you're sitting on the number 5 recruiting class in the country. You have the best receiver class in America right now. You have some difference makers on the D line like a Jason Moore, and could add to that. Your secondary class, which is a big need to get Calvin Simpson-Hunt and Jermaine Matthews. Those guys are really talented players. You got to hold off Auburn for Jelani Thurman, but he's one of the most talented tight ends in the country. Auburn's trying to flip Kayan Lee as well. Y'all are fighting the good fight there. Jaden Bonsu is another DB that's really good. Caden McDonald's a productive defensive lineman. So this class, it's a top 5 class. It's really good already. We'll see what y'all add to it, but I don't want to be coming to the front row over the next week and hear a bunch of whining when the class is already good. Like, yes, you're trying to add to it, and I get that. You win some, you lose some, but you guys got first world problems over here, man. You're in the college football playoff. You got a good team. You're going to have a good team next year. You're going to bring in a good recruiting class. The world it's good.
The world isn't going to end, Steve.
It's a good day to be a Buckeyes fan,
It
man.
Always is. It always is. And you're right.
Caleb Don, you guys are trying there. I know that's a question that was asked. Coach Saban and company were in there yesterday. I think right now Ohio State's expected to go in the day. Now, I'm not predicting any flip or heard anything like that, but y'all are, this staff, they fight to the end on kids, and you win a lot, lose some, on to the next cycle. And I would imagine Ohio State will have a pretty damn good recruiting class in 2024.
One question that was on there that seemed interesting is that Dylan Riola's father, Dom Riola, I believe, is being hired by Nebraska. Do you think that will affect things going forward? I can't see that happening, but I guess anything's possible.
I mean, I don't know. I know that with Dylan Raiola, I picked Ohio State to play for Ryan Day and be developed within that offense. And, Ohio State, Ryan Day hasn't missed on a first round quarterback starter yet since he's been in Columbus, and that's going to continue. So it'll be up to someone after CJ Stroud to see if that streak ends or not, because it's going to continue.
And you raised a good point on the Uyunglele, and that people may not remember this, but DJ Uyunglele and Bryce Young were the original kind of torch bearers for that class of quarterbacks out of California. And CJ was kind of the late bloomer. And now, X years later, both Bryce and CJ are going to have already, first of all three of them have cashed in through NIL, but those two, Bryce and CJ, have been developed to the point where they're going to be top 10 draft picks, and DJ is not. So
they were put in better situations, and
but they chose the situation, like
no
you
question.
said. So the idea of going back and getting the choice again certainly affects it.
So what I would say in hindsight, DJ was part of a terrific Clemson recruiting class. The difference is that Alabama and Ohio State surround the quarterback with good O-line play and playmakers at the wide receiver position. And Clemson has had suspect O-line play, and I don't know if they have a pro at wideout that DJ's played with. Maybe these freshmen eventually will play in the NFL, but Clemson's receiver recruiting really dipped. Jeff Scott did a great job of getting guys and developing guys. He goes on the USF. And, the guys that Clemson's recruited the last few cycles just weren't difference makers at that position. And, maybe you can point to DJ in some regard because, look, it's a long season and there's a lot of games to digest. But quarterbacks look a lot better when receivers are running open. Quarterbacks look a lot better when they're upright, and quarterbacks look a lot better when the play calling's good. And so to put it all on DJ is ridiculous. It was a combination of things of why he hasn't met the potential that we thought he had coming out of high school. He's still writing his journey, still had a good college career, he's just not trending to be a first rounder, but he won a lot of ball games. They're in the New Year's Six game again. Like I'm not, they've done a lot of good things at Clemson, but the expectation for Clemson, similar to Ohio State, is not winning 10 or 11 ball games, and so CJ Stroud and Bryce Young made good college decisions. They're surrounded by talent, and they maximized and developed and got better in their current situations, where DJ, man, he really had to battle and grind every week. Every damn week was a grind for Clemson. They still win most of the time, but it's rarely easy.
I would not sleep on DJ Uyunglele's ultimate future too. There are still several throws. As far as a guy who generates power with his arm from flat feet, which is one thing the NFL loves, I would bet you that there are some NFL guys who are hoping he falls farther and farther down the draft and then is developed. It would not surprise me at all to see DJ Uyunglele develop into a Pro Bowl quarterback. All the characteristics that made him an overwhelming recruit. I mean, I think a lot of people had him number one.
Look, he showed a lot of fortitude at Bosco in big games and a lot of courage to rally his team to beat Mater Day, I believe, late in his senior year. And I hope that his story in college football ends similar to the way Hendon Hooker's has at Tennessee, with the exception of the injury. I mean, Hendon Hooker, if you go back and look at his high school career, it's like, no kidding, he's good in college. I mean, he was an all-state basketball player, state champion football player that put up big-time numbers in football and basketball. That, again, didn't pick the best situation for him to flourish. And that's part of this deal. You may be talented, but football is the ultimate team sport and the ultimate
quarterback too.
Sport. Any position, really.
Yeah, but quarterback's different in that. Like, look at Dwayne Haskins. I mean, the late Dwayne Haskins was in the ideal situation here. And if once you took him out of it, he was screwed. Some guys need the structure, need the impetus, need the whatever. But like you said, that really is the track record, though.
Dwayne started in the NFL. His team wasn't very good. Obviously he was young. that my point is like, no matter what position you play, no matter how talented you are, oftentimes you can go to a place and not maximize your ability if you're not getting schemed correctly or coached correctly. And so it's very important for prospects to make the right decision for themselves schematically and developmentally, or oftentimes they are not going to reach their potential. And I think if you look at DJ's run at Clemson, his receivers can't separate. So how the hell is he going to make, and again, I'm not saying he's not culpable for some things, but his offensive line, not that good. You know what I'm saying? Like the play calling, not that exciting. Like it's just so.
But the raw materials remain.
When Trevor Lawrence and and Deshaun Watson were there, not only were those guys awesome, but the receivers in the running back room was legit. Now the offensive line still was suspect, but they at least had dudes that could catch the ball and score on one play. And then those guys could get rid of the ball. Those guys were mobile. They overcame a bad offensive line. DJ can't overcome a bad offensive line and bad receivers. You can't do that. And bad receivers by the standard of winning championships, not like their receivers are good players. Don't get me wrong.
I get it, but it does.
They're not win 14 game receivers. Excuse me. Yeah.
I don't know whether to give Dabo Swinney more credit for that or less, because
he's a great coach.
Right.
So you give him credit for maximizing the roster, but at the same time, you're building the roster.
And they got some guys, like the Brian Brzee pickup was enormous. They just never really hit on those skill guys. But like you're saying, T. Higgins and Hunter Renfrow and Travis Etienne, those guys are all collecting big checks.
Yeah, and some of those receivers they got, it's not like they were touted. It's not like I knew who Hunter Renfrow was in high school, but I'm just saying, like, they get credit for that. But they hit big on big time receivers, and they don't have any right now. He's not throwing to Hunter Renfrow.
No. Well, especially just compare it to Ohio State, where your two receivers from last year are in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year. The guy you let transfer out came back for one game and scored a touchdown. And then you didn't bring back who was supposed to be the number one most talented receiver in the country, and you still had the best receiver in the country. So a tad different recruiting than.
Yeah, Julian Fleming nearly went to Clemson, or they at least led at one point for him. He'd be their number one.
Yeah. I don't want to get into that one. All right. You kind of already answered this. Take this as much as you want. What percentage of the kids do you think right now are making their decisions based on, and this is, I would say, the kids that are in contention for Ohio State love that you've been dealing with? Of the 2023 and 24 kids, do you think they're making decisions on old school criteria, like development, path to the NFL, etc., or the new school criteria, which I believe stands for NIL?
So when you're talking about Ohio State is going to lose some recruiting battles, in my opinion, for high school prospects who are solely making their decision on NIL up front. But Ohio State, in my opinion, player development, really strong. NIL for current players on the team, really strong. Like they have a lot to sell, but I just think that their recipe is, look, we're going to take care of the guys in our locker room, and that's what's going to keep our culture the way we want it to be. You can't pay someone that hasn't made a play for us more than someone that is an All-American. You know what I'm saying?
Who was equally as touted.
And so, right. So I think that guys that are considering Ohio State, like Brandon Innes, who sees the potential of playing wide receiver at Ohio State and how well that room is doing, that's the long-term play, for him. Now, not everybody is walking the same life, so I'm not judging anybody on any decision they make.
Sure.
I'm just saying my perspective, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not. A lot of times I'm wrong around the Wiltfong house, I think that Ohio State's formula is, and Ryan Day's, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan Day has been an advocate for raising NIL money for his current roster. Wants his players
to get the 13 million factor.
Wants his players to get as much as possible. They're all for it. But it's going to mess up your culture if a true freshman that hasn't done diddly, no matter how touted they are, comes in and is making more than someone that's been an impact starter or an All-American or what have you. And so the recipe is, hey, look, man, our quarterback made X, Y, and Z. You'll get that on the back end, if not more, by the time this thing really ramps up, And so,
and it's not just that; it's that plus they can show you every guy in the NFL that comes through there and does well gets a second contract. They got a top 3 almost in every position across the board getting paid.
And that's not the Ohio State's not the only one with that. Like Michigan, Michigan's doing that, and other programs. So it's not like Ohio State's on this island all by themselves doing it this way. They're not.
In terms of paying more the proven rather than the entrance.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So,
yeah. But I think long term, it's the only way to go without having potential for internal combustion. Like there are other teams that may do this. Let's just wait that out a little bit. Let's wait a couple cycles for guys to get paid a whole bunch coming in and not produce, because I don't care what anybody says. Even at Ohio State, recruiting is not a 100% thing, man.
Well, there's things that we don't know about this, like that could go either way. So young man already wealthy off NIL. What desire does that have for him as a college athlete to give extra? How does it impact the peers in the locker room? There's, it might not be an issue. There might be some teams that are spending on this 2023 class and it's going to pay off for them, but there also might be some teams where it blows up their locker, their culture, and you got no chance to recover. So, we'll see. I don't know how it's going to go. And then again, I don't judge any of these young men. I've never walked in their shoes. Maybe the right thing for them is to take the upfront deal and then go take their chances. Like we don't know what's going on with these guys. I just know for Ohio State, these guys that are committed to the Buckeyes, they're coming to Ohio State to be part of one of the biggest universities in the country, to play for one of the best coaching staffs in the country, coaching staff that has Real Life Wednesdays, player development, and there is good NIL at Ohio State. It's good. It's really good. So
it's the pipeline to the NFL. And every single guy who comes to Ohio State, I've told people this, if they're not the best player in the history of their town, they're close. And every guy who comes here, besides the punter and kicker, thinks they're only coming for 3 years. That's okay. You have to show you can do that. And this NFL draft coming up will be no different. They're going to have a quarterback go up top, close. I'd be shocked if C.J. Stroud's not picking the top 10. I think Paris Johnson will get into the top 10 eventually.
Colts need a quarterback and a tackle.
Yeah. Speaking of the Colts, we got a question here that I think is probably the most important one we're going to ask all day. The Dallas Cowboys have signed T.Y. Hilton. Does he have anything left in the tank? I turn it to our Colts expert, Steve Wiltfong.
I don't know, man. We love T.Y. He lives in our suburb. My kid, I swear to God, my kid, every time he sees him, wants to try and take a picture with him. And it's like, dude, you already got one.
All right.
And we just got to, he's a dad. He's a dad around here. My kid's 8, by the way. So, but he's just, T.Y.'s a celebrity around Zionsville.
Does he live in Zionsville?
He does. Yeah.
Interesting.
And his kid's a sophomore receiver at Zionsville. He's got an early offer from Purdue.
His son?
Yeah. Eugene, which is T.Y.'s name. T.Y., he seems to be a great leader. Yeah. Obviously at the end of his Colts run here, he didn't make as many big plays as we were used to seeing when he was younger, but that's father time, man. Hey, your Cowboys, was that your ghost name on the website? You asking that question yourself? I know you're a big Cowboys fan.
No, someone's smart ass.
He's coming. He's
Big Calm. By the way, my nickname would never be Big Calm, so he asked that.
The Cowboys have so much money. If he catches 1 or 2 passes in the playoffs, it's worth it.
I agree.
He'll he'll be good. I would imagine he'll be good in the meeting rooms and with the guys, and he knows what it is. He's in there trying to steal a ring here late in his career, and so good for him, man. But yeah, he's the kids love him, and they always want to say hi to him, and I mean, hell, my kid. He autographed my kid's Cubs hat because it was all he had on him. And kids are funny,
Nice.
like it's
no Chicago angst.
He's got a T.Y. Hilton autograph next to his Patrick Wisdom autograph on a Cubs hat, and it's just funny, But no, T.Y. he's a saint around these parts here, and we're hopefully he goes out to Dallas and helps them win some games.
Yeah, on a more somber note, we'd be remiss if we did not pass along that during this show, the official death of Mike Leach has been announced, the longtime football coach and really just kind of a cool, entertaining. I was one of those guys that would watch his press conferences at times when I didn't have to, and it's just a loss to the fiber of college football. He wasn't just an offensive kind of mastermind. He was really kind of a cultural icon within the sport, which is really, as a living person is kind of a hard thing to do. So our condolences go out to his family and the Mississippi State community. Did you get a chance to ever meet him or know him at all?
No, I just obviously, like I said, know him as a Renaissance man, a man that was entertained. Everyone knows those guys that just knows so much about everything, and he was one of them. Just probably had a photographic memory of some sort that his recall was off the charts. Talking to coaches that worked for him, it was easy to work for him because the offense is really just like 9 plays in a variety.
That's a revolutionary offense
in a variety of ways.
Principles.
Yeah.
In terms of his impact, so he had a huge. He'll be remembered fondly everywhere he went, and it's a loss, man. College football is a really fun and cool, interesting sport to follow, and we get a chance to know these people for really a long period of time. This guy's been in our life for 20, 25 years. So our condolences go out to the Leach family, the Mississippi State community, and everywhere he's made an impact. And we hope everyone here has a wonderful day. We appreciate the Fong stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.
Take care, y'all. See you on the front row.